Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. We're here, first week of NFL DFS, and I am pumped, joined by my beauty of a co-host, Kiro. How are we doing? Are we ready to kill this first week of NFL content?
I mean, this is exciting for us. We've been doing exclusively UFC here on the channel until now, but here we got a little change of pace. We're starting with NFL videos. We're excited for the season to start. As two people in Eastern Canada, we are Bills fans, so we're excited for a promising season for them and a promising season for our bank accounts.
Oh yeah, lots and lots of weeks ahead. We have constant football to February 22nd nonstop, and we'll be posting NFL DFS every single week, making sure we are inflating that bank account balance and making a lot of money.
Yeah, and maybe even some bets too some weeks, so stay tuned for that.
We got a lot of great content coming up, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned because we're here to make some money. And that's what we're gonna do. I say we get right into it. Don't waste any more time. On the Plays and Fades YouTube channel, our DFS videos will include a play and a fade for each position at least. Make sure you guys get a ton of knowledge in what you guys want to play this weekend and a lot of targets that we're liking as well. So if we're able to hit those high targets, hit those high values, we're able to make some money together. Let's get her started. Week 1, quarterback position, our play of the week.
An exciting target, Mac Jones. Exciting news in the NFL world, or maybe not so exciting news, but obviously Cam Newton getting released from the Patriots. That means that this guy, Mac Jones, is getting the start this week, even though on DraftKings, his salary doesn't reflect that. His salary is still that of a backup QB, but he's going to be getting the start, which means that you're going to get value here. He's going to be a high-owned guy because of this incredibly low salary, even though he's a starting QB, but high-owned for a good reason. He's going to get you value as a starting QB, and he's going to put up some points regardless of really how well he does. He might have a little bit lower of a ceiling than some of the other QBs this week, but he's got a high floor because he's going to get a lot of touches on the ball. He's going to get the start. He's going to be worth the money here.
I mean, all he really needs to hit optimal is maybe a couple passing touchdowns and a couple hundred yards as well. And that is not that hard to do when you have that New England offense. I mean, they have a decent line as well. They're facing someone in Miami who's not exactly the best defensive team in the world. So when you have someone at 4.4K, it's someone you have to take advantage of. If you are able to spend down at the quarterback position, you're able to get some absolute studs that we'll be talking about later in this video. So Mac Jones, great option. We just need him to hit value for us, and it's gonna be a great week. That'll be a high-owned play for us, a good value play. Someone we're loving to fade this week is gonna be Daniel Jones, and it's gonna be a popular target to fade as well because he's not that good of a quarterback. I mean, sitting at a price tag of 5.3K, but those low-priced quarterbacks, and on that Giants team with a lot of missing assets in week 1, as well as a struggling offensive line, things aren't looking well for him, and he's facing someone in the Denver defense who is known to be one of the better ones in the league. So when you have the line that Jones does, it's just hard to see him putting up any points at all. So he is one of those value plays that we are absolutely avoiding this week at all costs. On the other hand, there's a lot of high expensive quarterbacks this week, and rightfully so. Who are the guys that we really just want to have in these cash lineups and these really safe options that we're paying up for?
Yeah, I mean, first person we talked about was Mac Jones with a very low salary for a starting QB, but the other two guys are going to be Rodgers and Mahomes. Hard to go wrong with those two guys. Rodgers in this first week is playing the Saints, who are a decent team, but we think Rodgers is going to live up to his price tag here, 6.8K, and same thing with Mahomes. I mean, we all saw how good he played in the Super Bowl last year, diving all over the place, and we expect him to come out strong this season too. The week 1 for both of these guys should be a good week, and even with high price tags, we think they're going to be worth their value here. Both guys with incredibly high ceilings.
I mean, Mahomes is a QB1 for a good reason. He's facing someone in the Browns who not that good of a team as well compared to Kansas City's standards, and he's going to look to put out a statement after losing the Super Bowl last year. Love Mahomes, can't go wrong with him, will be a high player just because of name value. Then you look at someone in Aaron Rodgers who doesn't have that running upside, but he's got some fantastic targets that we saw him be on the optimal line of last year's week 1, and this year he's fighting to prove a point. I mean, he has some struggles in the offseason with where he's going to return to Green Bay or not, and he's back and he's ready to put on a statement against someone in New Orleans who's a completely rebuilding team. So I think Green Bay is going to be able to run away with this one. Lots and lots of yards for Aaron Rodgers, and I'm looking to be a good mid-value target for us.
All right, moving on from quarterbacks to running backs. Who's the first person that we like?
I mean, I really couldn't believe that Antonio Gibson was sitting at a price tag of 5.9K this week. I mean, we saw how much people are loving him in fantasy drafts. He's spiked. He's all the way to the running back 12 this week in ADPs. So he's someone that we're surprised to see at 5.9K and facing someone in the Chargers defense who isn't top in the league, right? He's going to get those touches. He's going to be a great PPR player. And when we're playing DraftKings, we want those players who are going to be versatile, the ones who can get receiving yards and running yards as well. And he's going to be a big focal point of that offense playing with the new Fitzmagic. So I'm really liking him at a 5.9K. It's someone who has someone with as much potential as he does, sitting at such a low price tag. Is someone I really want to have in my lineup this week. Now, someone we are going to fade this week at the running back position is going to be Saquon Barkley. Tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier with the New York Giants. Not looking like a great week for them. They're missing some pieces. Their offensive line is struggling. And this guy, Saquon, is coming back from an injury, right? He wasn't necessarily even expected to play in week 1. He's coming back. Is it rushed? Who knows? But it doesn't look like he's going to be fully at 100%. And in combination with a struggling offense playing against the Broncos' strong defense, it's going to be a tough week for him, even if he is getting a lot of touches. So huge name value, right? One of the best running backs in the league, but this week is not going to be an ideal week for him in terms of circumstance. So we don't expect him to necessarily live up to the price tag that he has at 7.8K.
And the other thing is, if you're going to pay up for running back, which we plan on doing this week with so many value wide receivers, you might as well go up there and get your CMCs, get your Alvin Kamara's, get those guys who you know are going to put up insane numbers this week. And even if you're going to go down a bit, you can get someone like Austin Eckler, who I believe will have much more potential this week to score big with so much passing and rushing upside. I think Austin Eckler is going to be a beast this year. Someone else I'm targeting, but if you're going to pay up for someone at that price tag, you might as well stay away from Saquon and get someone someone safer with higher potential as well. So this week, as we're going to explain shortly, we are gearing up to take a lot of low priced and value wide receivers with so many options this week. If you did want to pay down at the running back position, you could get someone like a Damian Harris, who is sitting here at a price tag of 5.2K. I mean, he's going to be the rushing guy in New England without Cam Newton there. I mean, with no Cam Newton, Mac Jones is not a running quarterback. He's going to get a lot more touches and become a lot more of a value player there in the New England offense. I mean, again, against that Miami offense, we talked about Mac Jones, good value, a lot more upside now that no Cam Newton is there. Now, like we've been saying all video long, so many high value, low priced targets at wide receiver this week, starting off with an absolute stud, Marquez Callaway. Tell me a bit about him.
The reason we like this guy so much is firstly his price tag, super low price tag, and secondly, a couple of the wide receivers on New Orleans are not going to be there this week. Thomas is out, Smith is out, and this guy is going to be a huge target this week, and that's not reflected in his price tag, which means there's value to be had here. He's going to be a huge focal point of this offense. And at that 3.4K price tag, he's almost a must-have here at the wide receiver, especially since it allows you to pay up for some of those big running backs, which are going to guarantee you some good value.
I mean, Marquez Callaway is the wide receiver 1 in week 1 for that team. So when you have someone who's looked so good in preseason as well with Jameis Winston, he's one of those guys who will put up good numbers. And if he continues to live up to that stellar hype he's had in the preseason, he will be in the optimal lineup for sure.
All right. The second wide receiver that we like this week?
Michael Pittman. I mean, he's sitting at 4.1K, another great value pick. And with T.Y. Hilton now out for the Colts, he's going to have a lot more targets at the wide receiver position here. I mean, they're facing someone in Seattle who's going to have a high-scoring game as they usually do. I think it's going to be a great game, and with his huge athletic ability, I'm really liking him to put up some big numbers. I mean, at 4.1K, he's got a lot of potential to do a lot of good things. He's got size and great scoring ability. So if he's able to get those targets from Wentz there, he's going to be able to put up big numbers with his big frame, and he's going to get a lot more targets with T.Y. Hilton out. So at 4.1K, you can't really go wrong. I'm really liking him in this spot, and I hope he brings us some money.
The next wide receiver we really like this week is a guy on the Bengals, T. Higgins. Guy has a 4.7K price tag this week, even though he was ranked as the 21st wide receiver by ADP. I mean, this guy's salary is a lot lower than it was reflected in fantasy drafts especially, and he has an extremely high ceiling this week. In week 1, this whole Bengals team is priced very cheap, and we think that gives us some value here. This guy has a very high ceiling for that low of a price tag, And we think that he could definitely live up to it. So Higgins is going to be one of the focal points of the offense this week against a Minnesota team that isn't necessarily known for their defensive prowess. All right, we've given you some very low salary wide receiver options, but who's a guy that we like if you're trying to pay up at this position?
I mean, Calvin Ridley has all the tools to become the number one wide receiver in all of fantasy this year, and I'm loving him in week 1. I mean, he is going to be the focal point of that Atlanta offense. They're a team who's going to be behind a lot without a lot of very good running backs. So with a team behind that much, he's going to get a lot of targets. They're going to throw the ball a lot, and he has a lot of potential to go huge every single week. I mean, he's a great player going up against the Eagles defense in week 1, who isn't stellar at all either. And at 7.9K, he has the potential to really make or break your lineup. I mean, he averaged 20.4 fan points last year as well anyway. And without Julio Jones there, he is going to be that primary target. He gets a lot of those targets. So I'm loving him here at 7.9K. He's my favorite pay-up option at wide receiver. Also don't mind DK Metcalf, but Calvin Ridley is one of those guys who has this potential to be the number 1 wide receiver in all of football.
We gave you a lot of good options at wide receiver. Who's somebody that we want to fade this week, though?
I mean, I'm a big fan of this Chargers offense this year, but Keenan Allen, I think, is priced a bit too high at 6.9K against a team like Washington, who will have one of the better defenses this year. I mean, if you're willing to pay 6.9K for someone, I might as well pay up, get someone like DK Metcalf, get someone like Calvin Ridley, who you know is going to be a lock for touches and targets. I mean, when you have this Chargers offense, who's going to be mostly centered around Austin Eckler, there's also people like Mike Williams in that field as well, who are going to be able to do well with Justin Herbert this year. And whereas I do believe Keenan Allen's going to have a great year, it's a very, very tough week 1 matchup, especially up to a big price tag like he has right there. So I'd even like someone like Julio Jones a bit more at 6.8K. There's so many more options I like around him that I'm going to be fading him this week. Now, at the tight end position, you know you have your studs. You know you have Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, 3 guys you know are going to put up great numbers, but they come with a very expensive price tag. Someone this week who we're loving, who's also a bit on the pricier side, who has the potential to be just as good as those top 3, is going to be TJ Hawkinson. Tell us why.
I mean, this is an age-old story in fantasy sports. A guy trying to carry a very poor team and having a huge upside because of it. This guy is going to be one of the focal points of this offense. Also, we have the potential here for Detroit to be trailing, which means they might be throwing it a little bit more, means he might get a lot of targets. And this guy just has huge upside all around because he's going to get so many targets with the ball because of this not very strong offensive team. So he's somebody that we like a lot this week. He has a lower price tag than those really top-end guys. But as you said, we think he has the exact same almost upside as those guys because of all the targets that he's going to get. This guy could put yards on the field this week.
Yeah, and when you have someone with a new quarterback like him, I honestly see a lot of potential for him this year. I see him finish as my tight end number 4. So I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he does great in week 1.
All right, who are a couple other guys that we like at this tight end position?
I mean, this week you have someone in Conklin who's going to take over for Irv Smith Jr., who just got hurt. So you have someone at Conklin at 2.9K, a really good value play for us on this Minnesota Vikings team. He will get the targets. He will be the number 1 tight end there. The only problem with him is there are a lot of other passing options on the field. However, if you want to look at someone like Dan Arnold on the Carolina Panthers, he will be one of the primary targets out there, and he's sitting at a price tag of 2.6K. He's a veteran of the league. He's done a lot of good things, but he has the potential to really have some offensive prowess on this team as tight end number 1. I think there's a lot of value with him at 2.6K. Will be the cheapest guy on your entire team. He's worth a good GPP play, in my opinion.
Those are a couple guys with very low price tags that we like a lot. Who's the person we want to fade this week?
I'm not really a fan of Mike Gesicki at his price tag of 5.4K. I mean, he's going to be a good tight end this season, but I don't know why he should be priced ahead of someone like Noah Fant, ahead of someone like Kyle Pitts, especially when there's so many passing targets on that Miami team with Tua there. I mean, he's shown to have a good floor, but not that high of a ceiling on that team. He hasn't really scored that many touchdowns last year, so I like him to have a good, consistent year, but not someone I really want to pay up for at this tight end position. I'd much rather pay low, get some value, and be able to get those high stud running backs. Now, last category of the week, the defensive and special teams, one that a lot of people really struggle with. But this week, there's a clear favorite. There's a clear one we like to target, the San Francisco 49ers against the Detroit Lions. Tell us more.
I mean, we talked about it earlier with Hawkinson. That guy's going to be a huge focal point because that offense is struggling and they struggle to put points up on the board, which means that the 49ers are almost a lock this week to put up some good defensive and special teams numbers. They have a very strong defensive system there, and at 4.2K, you are paying up for this system, but we think it's going to be worth it against the Lions, who are not a particularly good team.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers are one of the better defenses in the league in the first place. And when you're going against a team who struggles as much as the Lions are going to struggle this year, I don't know why you wouldn't have them in there. I mean, the price is a bit scary. If you are looking to back a team with a lower price tag, I'm liking the Denver Broncos this week. We talked about the Giants and their struggles. They're sitting at a price tag of 3.3K. So when you have a struggling team like the Giants are, and a defense like the Broncos who are able to get those interceptions on Daniel Jones, who I don't think is that good in the first place, there's someone with a really high upside as well. In terms of the fade, I'm not a really big fan of the Giants defense themselves either. It's one of those games where I'm really high on Denver and really low on the Giants, as you can probably tell. So when they're sitting at a price tag of 3.8K, I really don't see why they're the third most expensive defense on the board this year. This week. That wraps up our week 1 of DFS plays and fades. I mean, a couple more options we're liking. CMC, can't go wrong with him. I mean, stud at 9.5K. Robbie Anderson, 5.7K, liking him as well. But there are so many things that we mentioned in this video. We're going to leave it there. If you have any more questions, you know where to find us, at Gordo Gambles on Twitter, at Plays Fades on Twitter as well, and on Instagram. Check us out. Make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe. Keep coming back every single week for more money-making opportunities. Thank you guys for watching, and let's make some money.